How do I deal with those triggering thoughts of him with the other woman? How do I deal with it when those really upsetting images come into my mind, come into my as a picture in my brain and trigger me? How do I deal with that? And that is a very, very, you could imagine, very common thing that I hear for people dealing with their partner's affairs. And the first place I want you to go, we talked about this way back in the beginning of the session on dealing with feelings. What causes feelings is our thoughts. So what causes our feelings is our thinking. One of the first places we want to go in this situation is we want to ask ourselves, what do I tell myself about that? When I have these obsessive thoughts, when these pictures come into my mind, what am I saying to myself? I tell you what I was saying is that I'm not wanted, I'm not loved, I'm not important, I don't matter, this relationship doesn't matter. So those are very painful things. If I went up to my best friend and said those to her, she probably wouldn't stay my best friend very long. But a lot of us say this to ourselves, and it's not easy to just stop doing that. But we can slow down and just pay attention to, what does that cause me to think about myself, and just really examine that. What do I make up about myself as a result of that? And examine that thought. Next is, it can be so frustrating on the path of healing when you feel like you're not going fast enough. We want it to be done, right? We want to be over it. We want to be moving on. We want to be feeling better. We don't want the negative stuff to come up. We don't want the triggers to come up, and I really, really understand that. But we do need to, part of what helps us to actually heal more quickly is for us to acknowledge our progress, to really acknowledge our progress. And so I want you to celebrate if you're meeting two criteria on your path of healing. So if you look back over the last week or the last month, is probably a better measure. And you can answer yes to both of these questions. It's time for you to acknowledge your progress and not focus so much on what you haven't done yet. It'd be like if I was on a diet, and let's just say I was trying to lose 20 pounds and I lost 10, and I'm obsessed about I haven't lost 10. How come I haven't lost the other 10? How come I haven't? Why have I not? It's not even going to be healthy for me to be in that mindset because I'm focusing on a lot of negativity. Part of healing is a celebrating and an acknowledging of where you have come, with also a look at and a clarity about where you're going, right? You've got to have both of them to really have healing. So we have to, if you can answer yes to both of these, you are making progress. Is whatever the negative thing is, whatever the negative trigger is it decreasing in frequency? Is it happening less often? Did it used to happen 10 times an hour and now it's 10 times a day? That's progress. It's still not fun. And is it decreasing in intensity? Is it decreasing in frequency, and is it decreasing in intensity? And of course, the path to healing goes like this, right? It goes all up, down, all over the place. That's just how it goes. And if you can say yes to both of those as you look back, not over just one day, but as you look back over several weeks, a month, a couple of months, then I want you to acknowledge progress and not just keep focusing on, oh, this is my issue, this is my issue. Step number 3. This comes from a quote that one of my professors from spiritual psychology in my master's program would say over and over and over again. Dr. Ron Holnick said, healing is the application of loving to the parts that hurt. So when you're getting triggered like that, you're hurting. You're a part of you is in a lot of pain. How can you, so ask yourself at that point, how can you apply loving one of my favorite ways to do that, well, you can do some of the strategies to like move your body, take a deep breath, have a conversation with your inner child. You can practice self-forgiveness. You can say a prayer. Like, what feels loving to you? It's a good time to ask yourself, to just let those triggers be. You know what? I need to do something to give love to myself as a self-care thing. Is it something self-care? Is it something you haven't spoken? Okay. Next, I want to ask you a question that's a very brave one for you to look at. If you're really, really stuck in these negative images coming up in there, you can't let go of the obsession about and the images of them. It's time to ask yourself, if your answers are no to its decreasing in frequency and intensity, it's time to ask yourself a really bold question. Is there some payoff to me holding on to this pain? Because even people that hire me to work with them, they can come and they can say, yeah, I want to get rid of this pain. I want to get rid of this. I want to move on. But when it comes down to it, there's a bigger payoff, and there's an old pattern keeping them locked into these old ways of being. Okay. Number 5 may surprise you, may sound unrelated, but it is very related, and that is, has your partner who cheated done the work to understand why? And have they shared that with you? That is exceedingly important if you want healing. And triggers are one of the things that will happen if we don't have resolution around that for ourselves. And so it builds intimacy and increases connection to be able to go to your partner, if you're the one who cheated, and say, you know what, I deeply apologize. I'm going to change my behavior. I want to know what you need from me. Here's what I've learned about myself. It's not okay that I did that. These are the ways I'm working to change. That conversation builds intimacy, and it calms your nervous system. We're responsible ultimately for calming our nervous system. But if we've got someone who hasn't done the work, they haven't looked at themselves, they don't have an understanding, it's understandable why you would be very easily triggered. So give yourself some love and use one of those strategies if you're dealing with these images that keep tormenting you. Give yourself, especially, healing is the application of loving to the parts that hurt.